we'll go ahead and get started. We are recording tonight, so for people who missed the meeting, or if you ever have to miss a meeting, we'll have a recording of it. So if you can keep your videos on, that would be great, just to give us a sense of who's here. We won't be taking attendance exactly, and we won't be getting after you if you are not paying attention. It's not that, but it just helps for us to see you. So as I said, I'm Beth Quindry with Shockey Consulting, and on behalf of the City of O'Fallon, welcome, and thank you so much for agreeing to be part of this committee. We have to meet virtually for now, which is convenient, but it's always a little disappointing that we don't get to meet each other in person, especially for the first time. So hopefully during this process, we'll get to do that at some point. But Shockey Consulting was hired by the City of O'Fallon to help your community develop this plan. So we started work back in the beginning of June or so. Starting to do some research that we'd be bringing to the community through our public engagement and to all of you. We are, I have to look at my notes because there were things I wanted to make sure I told you. So a master plan, for those of you who haven't had the pleasure of working on a master plan before, master plan is a really unique opportunity for a community to think about its future. So you're going to think about everything from housing to walking and biking trails. This opportunity happens once every few years. The last one O'Fallon did was in 2006. So it's a good time, especially because we're in such an odd time in the world, to think about what you want to be in 20 years and how you can get there. So it's a good time to be doing the plan. So our plan for you tonight is for you to first get to know each other, just to introduce ourselves and know who we have on the committee. And then we'll have some welcome remarks from the mayor. And we will, then I want to talk to you about what your role is on the committee, tell you more about our planning process, which really started for us back in June, continued until April 5th. April 5th is our deadline of when we expect the master plan to be adopted. So we'll talk about our process and how we get to that point. Community involvement is really important to us, and so we'll walk you through a lot of what we're planning to do and how you can help with that. And then we're going to talk to you a lot about some early data that we've gathered and the questions that we're going to be asking the public and decision makers like you all through this process. And so the second half of our meeting tonight will really be about that, sharing this data on O'Fallon that you all were sent last week. I'm sure you've memorized it. And we'll go through some of that and what we think it means for the planning process. So I'll introduce the project team and the city staff that are on the call, and then I'll call on each of you to introduce yourself. And I'll ask you what your favorite place in O'Fallon is as you introduce yourself, so you can think about what that would be. As I said, I'm Beth Quindry with Shockey Consulting. Shockey is a planning and public engagement firm. We do lots of comprehensive plans in the Midwest, and we're really excited to be working in O'Fallon. We've gotten to know your community a little bit over the last few months, and we've sort of fallen in love with it. We love your city staff, we love your downtown, we love the civic spirit that you all bring. So we think you have a great place to plan. So with me from Shockey is Tyler Waldorf, and Tyler, maybe you just wave so people can see. Thanks, Tyler. Tyler's our project manager, and he helps us with all things process and scheduling and just keeps us all on track. Sheila Shockey is also here. Hey, Sheila. I had to find her too. The pictures are a little small when we get this big. So Sheila Shockey is the owner of Shockey Consulting, and she's going to be sharing the data with you tonight. And then we have Gabby Danback. Gabby is our do everything gal. So everything from social media to the meeting reminders you all will probably receive will be from Gabby. So that's the Shockey team. From the city, we have Mayor Roach. And so there we go. He's in the top for me. Mayor Roach, we have Walter Denton, who's your city administrator. And we have, let's see, Ted Shekel, who, okay, there he is. Hey, Ted. Who's your community development director, soon to be retired. And he's leaving his kingdom to Justin Randall, who is your community development director to be. So we're all excited to be working on this project together. And now we want to meet you. So I'm going to start in what's top for me, which is William's iPad. So I'm not, and you might be muted. I have you all muted. So unmute to talk. Let's see. And William, I'm having trouble hearing you. Let's see. I'm going to ask you to unmute. Well, let's come back to William. So how about Charles Jorgensen?
Okay, I finally found the unmute on here. Hi, I'm Chuck Jorgensen.
Okay.
I'm commander of the American Legion here in O'Fallon, and I'm a veteran. So I guess that's why I'm on here, is because I can bring the veterans' point of view, or which we have tons of veterans in O'Fallon. So I'm by no means the only voice of veterans. And you asked about what place we like in O'Fallon the best.
Yeah.
And that would got to be Rock Springs Park, because it's a good place for us to take our two Labradors and really let them run up way out and back in the woods where there's no people around. So
awesome.
That's about it.
Okay, thank you. That was perfect. So yes, if you could all tell us who you're affiliated with or your organization, because y'all representing different groups in O'Fallon, tell me that, and then also what your favorite place is. So Matt, how about you next?
All right, I'm Matt Small here. I own Tie Dyed Iguana in O'Fallon. Also my favorite place in O'Fallon, just saying. I'm also a St. Clair County Board member, District 18, formerly with O'Fallon City Council, so been trying to kind of make a difference for a while. But in all reality, I would have to agree with William, not William, but whoever had just spoke. Rock Springs Rotary Park would be my favorite spot for sure.
Okay, great, thank you. Carrie.
Hi, I'm Carrie Ruby. I'm the superintendent of O'Fallon District 90 and a Rotarian here in town, and have been here since 2015 with my family. I would say that one of my favorite places is the sports park because of the experiences my kids have had there, and always enjoy seeing lots of families out at sports park exercising.
Yeah, great.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. Yep, and I live in Kirkwood, Missouri, but I too have my family has also spent time at the sports park for soccer games. So, all right, Bishop Dudley.
Hi, I'm Bishop Dudley and Senior Pastor of New Life in Christ, Interdenominational Church, and glad to be here, glad to be a part of the planning. It is kind of difficult to say what my favorite place would be outside of our church. Would probably be, and I hope I don't get myself in any trouble with any business owners, it would probably be Peel's / the park.
Okay, I'll take that answer. Thank you. Michelle. Let's see. Michelle, I think you're still muted here.
Mute.
There you go.
Can you hear me now?
I can.
Okay. I'm Michelle Braddock, and I own Braddock Architectural Services, and I've lived in O'Fallon about 29 years. And my favorite place is the sports park. We like the trails and the go out in the woods and the dog park.
Awesome. Thank you. Tiana.
Yeah.
Hi, good evening, everyone. I'm Tiana Montgomery, and I'm currently the principal at Albert Cassens Elementary School in the Edwardsville School District. But previous to that, I was the principal at Shiloh Elementary School. I'm also a lead-in graduate and a former board member of the O'Fallon Shiloh Chamber of Commerce, and of course, also an O'Fallon resident. So I guess I'll be a little biased. I hear parks, of course, you know, natural fun. You can, just go and have, time to yourself or time with your family. But I'll also just say the schools, just because, I'm going to represent Central. I see Ms. Zelster on here, but I'm going to say the schools are just amazing. Also, I know Ms. Ruby is on here as well. Just being an educator, I know the schools are just top notch in O'Fallon. So I'll just say schools, parks, and then of course, just home. So.
Yeah, great. Yeah, and I'm impressed really that any educators are here after like whatever day you've had trying to manage through COVID. I only have 2 students in my house, and it's about does me in. So thank you. Dawn. Almost.
All right, I'm Dawn Elser, the superintendent at Central School District 104. I actually spent my whole career there at the O'Fallon School District as first grade teacher, then principal, and now my 4th year here as superintendent. So I've spent my entire career in O'Fallon, and I'm going to give the same sentiment as Tiana, because I think O'Fallon and all the collaboration is just wonderful within the schools, and also the park, where you always just see activity and kids having fun. So those are my 2 places in the area.
Yeah, great. Well, I think a lot of people choose O'Fallon because of the schools.
Absolutely.
That's what we're hearing. So, yeah. Okay, so I see Ed and Debbie and their dog. Yeah.
We have to phone a friend if there's a question we can't answer. I'm Debbie Arel Martinez. I'm the director of the O'Fallon Shiloh Chamber of Commerce. I'm also a Rotarian and a veteran. And my very favorite thing in O'Fallon is just the ability to bike and walk. And I really love the new bike trail. That's definitely my favorite place in O'Fallon.
Okay, great. Great, thank you.
Eddie Martinez, we got stationed here in 2002. We retired in 2006. I run the VFW, and I'm a police commissioner as well in O'Fallon. And of course, I have to say the VFW is the #1, especially because Charles from the Legion's on, so I better say that. But are pretty cool as well. And happy to be here and happy to contribute what we can.
Great, thank you. And what is your dog's name?
This is Hefe.
Oh, cute. All right, Terry.
Do you hear me?
I can.
Okay. Terry Taggart. My wife and I have been residents about 21 years here in O'Fallon. I'm a retired IDOT.
Oh, you know what? We just lost your sound. I had you. Okay, try it again.
How about now?
Yep.
Okay. I've been a resident, my wife and I have, for over 21 years, since '99. And I'm a retired IDOT engineering technician, almost 35 years. Worked 2 years with Horner Schifrin Engineering, and I'm actually on my 4th year with Volkert, part-time. And my wife and I enjoy the bike trail and the sports park walking.
Great, thank you. Francine.
Hi, my name is Francine Nicholson. I'm the president of the O'Fallon Metro NAACP, and I would say my favorite place in O'Fallon would be the sports park.
Okay, very good. I'm going to go to Nathan and then Beth and then Ray, just so give you a little bit more warning on your muting, unmuting. So Nathan first.
Very good. I'm Nathan Stuck. Lived in O'Fallon since '93 with a little stint down in Carbondale for college. I own Whisper, and we provide high-speed internet access. My favorite park, you guys all pick the parks and everything. I love being outside as well, but I'm going to go one step further and say the swimming pool, where our whole family swims. I was a swimmer. My wife's a swimmer. We run the swim team in town. So the Metroplex and the city pool are great places to be.
Great, great, great. Okay, Beth, great name.
Thank you. I'm Beth Ortega. I have the Beth Ortega Group at Remax Preferred here in town. So my favorite place is every house that is for sale. So I've been in O'Fallon my whole life. And hi, Herb. I love you. And I'm happy to help.
Great. Okay, well, thank you. And Ray.
Yes, my name's Ray Rohr. I'm a 30-year resident of O'Fallon. I grew up in Belleville, but I've lived in Cedar Meadows, Steeplechase, and we now live in Stonebridge Villas. And I think the neighborhoods are something to say about O'Fallon. But if I were going to have a favorite spot, it'd be the revitalized downtown area, where you have Peels on one end and the VFW on one end. You have Shooters, Sweet Katie B's, Kirkchilds. All the excitement that's going on downtown has been very satisfying.
Great. Yeah, I agree. So I'm going to ask Cindy for you to be next, and then we'll go to Al and then Joy. So Cindy.
Hi, I'm Cindy Doyle. I'm the school liaison officer for Scott Air Force Base. I work with all the area schools and folks and the great superintendents that we have here and principals. And I have to say that my favorite place is inside St. Nicholas Church.
Great. Yeah. All right, Al.
Oh, I'm Al Keeler. I'm on the Planning Commission here in town, so I work with Ted and that crowd. Have done that for a number of years. I am a retired Air Force officer. We came here in '97, been here since then, retired Air Force, did some consulting, or still in independent consulting on the side right now. And I'm anxious to get going on this project. As far as favorite places, I'll go two. I like to walk. So when I'm in motion, I'm usually at the sports park or the new trail. I guess that's my part of town, and I love those areas. But when I want to just sit and relax, I'm really missing the movie theater. So that's the other part where you might see me there.
Yeah.
As soon as James Bond movie starts, you'll see me in the seat.
Sounds good. Thank you. Joy.
Hi, I'm Joy Paith. My husband and I have been residents of O'Fallon for 30 years, and I am the CEO for Age Smart Community Resources on State Street, the local area agency on aging. And my favorite place would have to be the revitalized downtown.
Yeah, great. Okay, I'm going to struggle with the name of, it's E. Hazen on the screen. So help me with your first name.
Hi, my name is Erin Hazen. I am the nurse manager at St. Elizabeth's for the emergency room and the urgent care and a few other departments. And I'm a lead-in graduate as well, and I am a mom of 2 kids. And I think my favorite part of Fallon, probably have a competition for 2, is everything about downtown. I love the small businesses and the restaurants. I'm a big fan of Hemingway's crab cakes. But I think the other one is on the 5th floor of St. E's. It's where we can take our lunch break, and there's an open area so you can see out over the whole city. So it's pretty cool. So
Oh, nice.
Place.
Yeah. All right. Thank you. I'm going to go to Larry and then William and then Julie. So Larry.
Hello, good evening, everyone. Larry Sewell here. We've been in O'Fallon for about 29 years now. And I'm a credit union executive at Together Credit Union here in the greater St. Louis area. And also serving on the Planning Commission for about 15 years and counting now. And my 2 favorite places, I think, I missed the early part, was whether it's a high school football stadium or a high school gymnasium, and then any golf course here in town.
All right, fair enough. That's a nice, pretty safe right now with the golf. All right, William.
I'm William Hidpass, pastor of St. Nicholas Church. Thanks to Cindy Doyle for giving us a plug. It's her favorite place to be. I also enjoy being there. I was going to say my favorite place was the barber shop because I meet a lot of people there. But this last gentleman talked about the golf course, and that's probably where I need to be most. I've been pastor of St. Nicholas for coming up on 39 years.
Awesome. Julie.
I don't know why that took me so long. I'm a millennial, but I'm terrible at that stuff. My name is Julie Hughes. I own Furchild, the pet boutique downtown. That was Archie that just made a little cameo. My favorite places, because I have a tie, are going to be downtown, especially the Vine Street Market. I love that on Saturdays. I wish we had that like every day. And then I love the City Garden too. I really think that's a cool place to be. And I think a lot of people forget about that, but it's a neat spot if you like growing things.
Awesome. Let's see, I think we have a couple people on the phone, so let me give them a chance. Darcy, can you hear me?
I can.
Hi, Darcy.
I'm Darcy Benway. I'm sorry, I'm having some video technical difficulties today, so I've got your audio. I want to apologize for that. But anyway, I am the superintendent of the high school district here in town, OTHS. I'm also a Rotarian, and I moved here with my family back in 2007. My favorite place would have to be OTHS. First of all, it's my home away from home. I feel like I live there sometimes more than I do at my real residence. But in addition, I am the mom of 2 children that graduated from OTHS, and I think it just laid a great foundation for them, and so I'm just real fond of it.
Great. Okay, thanks, Darcy. And Daryl, can you hear me? We have Daryl on the phone too. Well, Daryl, you can jump in anytime to introduce yourself, or maybe I'll come back to you and give you another chance in a minute. How about Ken Gosling? Maybe. It's hard, so I'm going to assume they can probably hear us, but it might be hard for them to speak. So we'll welcome to both of them. We have a couple other folks from the city who are also in listening mode. Jessica Short with Community Development and Grant Litigan. Oh, hey, Jessica. There's a picture.
Sorry, I got home late and had to eat a sandwich.
Very good. Okay, thanks for joining us. Jessica works with Ted and Justin in community development, and then we also have Grant Litigan, who's the assistant city administrator.
Hey everyone, glad you could join us. Glad to be here.
Thanks, Grant. Okay, and Julie Hughes. Julie, do you want to introduce yourself?
That's me.
Yeah.
She already introduced.
Oh, she did. You know what? I'm sorry. You went to no video and it just threw me. So.
Oh, you're all good.
Sorry about that. Okay. Well, thanks everybody. Mayor Roach, would you like to say a few words for us?
Well, first off, I'd want to start by thanking all of you for agreeing to participate. This is an extremely important project for our community. And before I say anything more, a lot of you on here are former military. A lot of you are affiliated with the military. And I want to announce to you, if you have not heard it, but we just this week received a ranking, a national ranking, and that is that the city of O'Fallon has been ranked as the 28th most affordable housing area for veterans in the entire country and first in the state of Illinois. So we've got a lot of people that have worked very hard to make that come to be. And so I just wanted to get that out and let everybody know that. But, you know, with any organization, whether it's the military, whether it's a school, whether it's the Rotarians, or the city, you have to have a plan on where you're going to help you keep fiscally responsible and for knowing what you want to that end achievement is for you. You cannot go and say, I'm going to fly by the seat of my pants and really be successful in all realms of it. So that's why we have asked all of you to please take the time to participate, give us your feedback on where we want to go. You know, many of our departments have done some internal studies to help us in the direction. For example, our street department, our public works in general, with our streets and our sewer and our stormwater. to help us on what we need to do with our infrastructure programs, many of them well over 60 years old, and how we need to improve upon those so we don't have any serious problems. We've also brought upon marketing to do some smart growth and how to change the outlook and the marketing of our community to the outside world. All of these. But now we need to develop an overall program that's going to carry us together for all of our projects for the next 20 years. In other words, where is O'Fallon going to be? What is O'Fallon going to look like? And you are going to be guiding the rudder of that ship. So I am so pleased to have all of you here, and every one of you brings a certain amount of expertise that is going to help make this plan the best we can for our community. So again, thank you, and look forward to working with all of you.
Thanks, Mayor. And I think it's such a testament to your community that you've got such a diverse group of people here from all different perspectives. So I think it's a unique opportunity for all of us to have people from military and from school and from church and from civic organizations like Rotary, all in the same space to think about this planning effort. So as the mayor said, you all have expertise. We want to hear from each of you. You know, you have a lot of expertise. You might not have done a master plan before, so we don't expect you to be experts on any of that. We want you to ask us questions. If you ever feel like you're not clear about your role or what we're doing, please ask, and others are going to have the same question. So very much an open and transparent process. So let's start. I'm going to share my screen, and we'll start walking through a couple things here. And all right, can everybody see my?
Yes.
All right, so we've talked about what our agenda is going to be about today. You've already done the engagement activity. And we've heard from Mayor Roach. We're going to talk about your member roles and responsibilities, give you an overview of the process, talk about data, and then we'll talk about some next steps. I did want to say, as you're participating tonight, please use the chat. We're going to be watching it. If you have questions, please use that. You can use the raise hand function in Zoom. Some of you are going to see that depending on your setup. You might not. If you have a question, just don't hesitate to ask. We will keep you muted, as you noticed on the introductions, just to minimize that background noise. So just be ready to unmute if you want to speak. So let's see. So we do want to start with the end in mind is that land usages. We want to energize the community around this plan and try to build consensus toward the recommendations in the plan, and we'll talk about how we're going to do that. We want to have a clear course and action steps that are adaptable to possible futures. You'll see a big part of our process is going over trends and data to help you anticipate what might come, so we can plan for it. We want to be aware of existing proposed policies and goals. And then we have a simultaneous process going on to develop a strategic plan. And so we want to have this be integrated with that development of the strategic plan. So a master plan is, as its name implies, you know, it's a policy level document. It's a 20-year, 15 to 20-year time frame, so a long time. It is really going to be the foundation for other planning efforts that you may have been a part of, whether it was the downtown plan or the bike and walk plan the city has. So the idea with a master plan is that you're going to have the master plan inform all of those planning efforts so they work together as a whole that makes sense and gets the community to its vision. So this is included in your packet, this role that you are going to have, but it's important, so we wanted to hit this again today. You will be developing recommendations on the community engagement process. In a little bit, I'm going to share information on our community engagement plan. We actually get to launch engagement activities tomorrow. But we're going to be looking for your feedback on the initial plans we've come up with. A really important function that you have is connecting us to your networks and other people. So we want to make sure that the process that we've designed, you think is really going to do that. We'll be looking at a lot of data, assessing national, regional, and local trends. So you'll be helping us look at that and figure out which trends are most applicable to O'Fallon. You're really going to be a filter for us for community engagement. You'll see we're doing a lot of community engagement. And when you do a lot of community engagement, you hear a lot of different things. So we're going to have, you'll help us filter what we're hearing from the public and kind of make sense of it and decide what's most important interpreting, and it help us interpret that public input. So we'll be defining the vision and the goals for the plan, developing that framework. And then we have to come to consensus. So it's a really nice, easy term to say, but that's not always the easiest thing to do. But we've built time in your process and meetings in your process to give us time to deliberate over issues. It's okay to disagree, we expect that. And we want to have time to talk through issues and really come to consensus by the time we're adopting this plan. And then we hope, our hope is that you will also leave this process with an idea of how you can be involved in implementing it. So any questions about your role? In your packet, you had information on when your meetings are and that kind of thing. But any other questions at this time? And I'll ask others to keep in. I can only see so many of these pictures. So I'm going to make it as big as I can to make sure I can see as many people as I can here. I don't see any questions, so I hope I'm not missing anybody. Just feel free to shout out when I give you all the opportunity. So a few tips for participation. We do want you to prepare for meetings as much as you can. We'll send you materials in advance so you can do that. We don't expect you to memorize the materials, but being familiar with them is great. We want you to come to meetings as much as you possibly can. We don't have very many of them, so the more you can make, the better. We want you to share your best thinking, share and explore differences. And I think that's really important. You know, it's okay to talk about the things that you differ on. We're here to help facilitate those conversations and think about those issues from different sides with you. So we don't want, really don't want you to be in meetings, not agreeing with what's happening or what you're hearing. And then later in the process, you know, you're not sure you like where we are. So this process will move pretty fast. So from meeting to meeting, decisions will be made and we'll move forward. It's always iterative. You know, it's never like we're never going to revisit something after we talk about it one evening. But it does build up and it does lead us toward recommendations that we'll be developing in December. So we want you to be on board with us the whole time or indicating we need to have more conversation. Agree to disagree, but don't be disagreeable. Some of these basic respectful things. We do want to hear other people's perspectives. So we're going to listen to each other and then make sure all perspectives are understood. You all do have different hats that you're wearing, but we're asking you to kind of wear two hats, that specific expertise and experience that you have, but also the community as a whole would be really useful for the conversation. And I feel the need to tell you that most of our meetings are going to be very interactive. This one, you're going to be hearing from me a lot, and Sheila and Tyler. Usually your meetings are going to be more collaborative and you're going to be doing exercises. So this is your easy meeting where you're sitting and listening to us, but you're really here because we want to hear from you. So know that to be the case. We have a lot of information to share with you tonight, but future meetings, it's going to be a lot. We're going to be asking you to do a little more. So Tyler, do you want to speak to our roadmap here and a little bit about our process?
Definitely. Well, good evening, everybody. My name is Tyler Waldorf, and as Beth said, it's really a pleasure to be working with you all. It's been great working with the city staff already for the last few months, and looking forward to really working with everybody in the O'Fallon community. And so one of my roles and responsibilities here in the project is to kind of really make sure our process is moving forward. And so I just want to give a kind of brief overview tonight as to how we will be approaching the master plan process, to give you kind of a roadmap, if you will. And so knowing where we're going to start this evening and hopefully where we will end up by April. And so I'm sure everybody here is familiar with a vision statement. I'm sure many of you have been part of creating a vision statement, perhaps for the organizations you work with. And so of course, that's kind of the desired future represented in idealistic or aspirational terms. And so one thing that's really central to our process is actually strategic visioning. And what we mean by that is making sure that the steps and strategies that we lay out for the master plan are actionable. We want to make sure that you're able to achieve the vision that you all have for the future of O'Fallon, as the mayor was saying, as we look forward to the next 20 years. And we really want to make sure that that's achievable for you all, and that the vision statement isn't just a pie in the sky idea. And so here, this graphic kind of outlines how we work through that process. And so even starting today, just by kind of hearing some of the things that are important to you throughout the community, and having already had a bit of a workshop with the city staff and council and commission, we're already starting to think about the vision. And so we will be working with you all over the next meeting or so to start to craft that. And from there, as we continue through the process, we'll start to work on goals and objectives. And those will really be kind of the long-term desired outcomes. And so that really is where we look to 20 years and want to know exactly what you want O'Fallon to be and what you want it to look like. And and then as we continue in the process, we're going to really start to define strategies. And those truly are the action items that I was talking about as part of the strategic visioning process. And that really will set you all up to be in the best position to achieve the goals and your ultimate vision. And lastly, as part of the process, we'll be working to create a series of policies. And what these will really do will help create a framework related to land use and development and public investment, so that as you grow and develop, you really have a strong set of policies to help guide that. One other thing I'd like to mention throughout the process, you'll probably hear us talk about strategic foresight. And that's a really important component of our process here at Shockey. And what that is using data that we've collected about O'Fallon, thinking about local and national trends, and bringing those together in a way that we can have an informed conversation to think about the future and really kind of project into 20 years to see what we want for O'Fallon. Next slide, Beth. Thanks. So as I was kind of mentioning, we have a 5-phase process here for the master plan. And we have obviously already started with the launch, and we did that back with city staff over the summer. And now we're probably about halfway through the discovery phase. And so this is where our team begins working with you all and city staff to really develop and craft the story of O'Fallon. And so we've done that by reviewing all of the city's existing plans, collecting a wide range of data, which I think you all have probably seen already in the snapshot. And so that will really form the basis of what we work through over our upcoming discussions and with the community throughout the engagement process. And so that leads us to phase 3 here, which is really, as Beth said, it's all about creating consensus. And so that's really where we get into the meat of the engagement process with the community. And then Phase 4 is crafting the plan. And so that's really where we're going to take everything that we've heard throughout the engagement plan and process, our conversations with you all and city staff, and really bring that into a deliverable that we can present to the Planning Commission and also the City Council for eventual adoption and implementation, which, as Beth mentioned earlier, will be in April. And so one component of the deliverable that we will provide is an implementation schedule and matrix. And kind of going back to the idea of strategic visioning, that really is what the city will be able to use as a tool to guide them through the implementation process as they work on the strategies over the next 5, 10, and eventually 20 years. And so here is our process diagram, kind of outlining our key stakeholder groups and also our overall meeting schedule. I won't go through the dates specifically, but just wanted to kind of highlight here the project management team is the core city staff that's on the call this evening. And so since July, or really the end of June, we've had already a number of calls with them, and just kind of highlighting here how much interaction we have with them as we move through this process. And this is probably only a third of the meetings that we have with them on a regular basis. We also will engage with the larger city staff and department heads. And so we already started that process earlier in September, where we had kind of our first planning workshop with them. And we'll have a subsequent one in December as we start to work through the goals and vision and strategies. And then on that third row there, you'll see the focus group, you all. And so obviously you're a central component to our process. And so here you'll just kind of see the 5 meetings that we have slated with you all starting today and moving into late January. At which point we'll be really kind of looking at the draft plan with you all closely, making sure that we've understood the hopes and dreams and really have kind of created that into the final deliverable that you all can come to consensus around. Obviously, we are going to be working with the elected officials and updating them throughout the process. It's very important to us to make sure that they are along throughout the process. Nothing worse than a surprise plan at the end that they've not been a part of. It usually doesn't bode well for adoption. So for us, it's really critical to make sure they're included throughout the process. And then in part of that too is the Community Development Committee. So that just gives you a bit of overview of our meetings and how the things that we talk about with the different groups kind of align with each other and really kind of move us forward through that strategic visioning process. And so with that, again, just really excited to meet all of you this evening and look forward to our upcoming conversations. And Beth, I'll turn it over to you for engagement.
Okay. Thanks, Tyler. And you handled it well when I mixed up your slides and turned that one too soon, just unflappable. So the last process or plan diagram that we're going to share with you is our community engagement plan. So community engagement is a huge part of this planning process, and we're excited to get started. We get to launch our website tomorrow. So I'll tell you briefly, I want to highlight a couple of things that are on this engagement plan, and then I want to ask you for your thoughts on how we're doing this, because our goal is to reach as many people in the community as possible, and we want to pay particular attention to groups of people who don't necessarily, or individuals who don't necessarily pay attention to what the city does all the time. You know, we'll be reaching out through city channels. We know there are a lot of people already paying attention. We need to get to those people and beyond those people to represent all of O'Fallon. So unlike a statistically valid survey, when you do a process like this, you know, we can't, we're not a statistically valid process where we get every demographic group represented. But we want to do, what we want to do is give everyone multiple opportunities to engage with us. So at the end of the process, very few people can say that they've never heard of it. So that's our goal. But the way this diagram works, on the left side, you'll see information on the tools that we're going to use. The yellow, those are the ways that we're really going to engage with the community, the tools we're going to use to get feedback. So you see quick polls and online forums there. There are a couple things I'll explain. I'm sure you know what things like the quick polls are, but we're going to have a conversation kit, and that's going to be, in non-COVID times, we would call it a meeting in a box, but we're not actually creating that sort of a tool. It's going to be digital for the most part, and downloadable from our website. But it is basically a meeting kit. So questions, a map, and some information on O'Fallon so people can meet with small groups at their workplace or with their families, and they can do this as a fun activity and then give us information. So that's the conversation kit. The community kiosks, I also wanted to explain, that's really going to be sort of our community presence. It's signage that we're developing, and I'll share with you the design for that at your next meeting. But just to raise awareness about the planning effort in the community. If it weren't a pandemic, we would be doing, we would be attending some of your community events in person and trying to get people to be aware of the process and do activities for us at local events. But that's not our strategy at this time because of COVID. So the kiosks are a way to get some community awareness and then bring people in to the process by just sharing information with them where they already are. So Vine Street Market and the library and places like that will have information. And then the Pulse panel is something that we'll be looking to you all to assist us with in recruiting. So I want to tell you about that. The Pulse panel is going to be, it's volunteer, but we're asking folks to register on our website and others if they'd be willing to do a little bit more engagement for us. And so we'll be sending that group, as we recruit them, we'll be sending them weekly emails and activities that are unique to them, where they might have to take a little bit more time, but still not a lot. We want to be sensitive to people's time. But we'll send out weekly emails to Pulse members. We really want that group to demographically represent O'Fallon. So I'm gonna, at my next slide, I think, is about the homework I'd like you all to have for engagement. And one of those things is to recruit for the Pulse, and we'll give you some tools to do that. So again, the yellow are the tools we're going to use, the blue going down that column, those are the ways we're going to communicate with people. The most important thing I want to point out there is we have an interactive website called it's Bang the Table, how we refer to it internally. Your site's called buildofallon.com. So it is live now. And in your post-meeting materials, I will send you a link. Actually, Gabby, if you could put the link in the chat, as long as I don't lose you all to buildofallon.com during our meeting, we'll share the link with you. But it's got a lot of information. I'll show you a couple screenshots of it in a minute, but that's really our hub for engagement. There's a lot of information we're sharing, activities that we're rolling out. If you look at this diagram, the green going across the top there are the themes that we have for engagement. We are going to be about every 2 weeks changing our engagement theme. So we're emphasizing different aspects of your master plan. So these titles on the themes actually tie to the chapters in your master plan. And we'll tie our engagement activities to those on an every 2 week or so basis. So we'll be putting out surveys and online discussion forums on those topics in tune with that schedule. So questions or comments about how we're doing engagement, things you think we should keep in mind as we're trying to reach out to everyone in your community. Anybody? Okay, I'm going to call on a couple people just for general feedback then. Okay, Tiana, what do you think?
My first sentiment is just wow. I did take a look at this information when Justin sent it to us, and just to see how detailed and strategic this is amazing to me, because I am definitely one of those that likes things in order, and to hear that you said we start, from the end and work ourselves back, just again, as an educator, thinking in that same frame of mind. So I'm just like, boy, I can see the beginning, the middle, the end. And it's just nice to see, it's short-term goals embedded, but also long-term. So I'm just amazed. And I feel like this is phenomenal as, we continue to build and grow O'Fallon, because hey, we deserve it, right?
Right.
So yes, this is amazing. So I think, wow, that's my first sentiment.
Okay, well, great. That's great. Thank you. All right, Erin, what do you think? And how can we get to nurses? We know they're busy and they work weird hours.
I think that, the whole point of being a nurse is to help others. So they're pretty involved and engaged in the community. So I think this is going to be awesome. I am complete opposite of Tiana. I am in utter chaos all the time. So to be honest, the chart makes me nervous. But I'm glad that there's people that can do this and function this way and kind of just guide me. So, but no, I think that they want to help and they want to participate, and they want what's best for our community. So I don't think it'll be as hard as we may anticipate.
Okay, good. One of our, we are digital. This is digital because we're trying to keep everybody safe. And so this has lots of different ways for people to participate, but it's digital. So, and it's online. So that's something we're aware of, and we want to make sure we make it easy for everybody. Okay, I'm going to call on one more person. Chuck, what do you think, a reaction from you for those you work with and interact with? How do you think this will be? Oh, Chuck, you're muted. Sorry.
There, now I'm unmuted.
You are not. I can hear you.
Okay, good. I guess I'll circle back to the vision statement about where we expect to go, because if we don't know what the ultimate goal is or the end state, anywhere will do. So I think laying it all out like this will help us build to a successful end. Though I do have to admit, most of my city planning is based on the video game SimCity. So
hey, that's a great tool.
So we'll see.
Okay.
Chuck, I just have to say, that is why I am where I am today, is that game. So you work well.
I feel like I need to go dig it out from wherever my kids have stashed it and redo it again. So I'm ready for this, but okay.
Yeah, maybe we should have you do that. Okay. All right. Well, thank you for that initial feedback. And yeah, please spend a little time with us and think about folks that that you think are kind of hard to get a hold of, and are we building in strategies to touch them? And then, just let us know what ideas and comments you have. So real quick, this is a glimpse of our engagement platform. Again, it's buildofallon.com. So you can see the welcome screen here, and there's a little blue square that says, what are your O'Fallon favorites? That's going to take folks to a quick poll that they can do, and they can immediately see results. So we can see which of your favorite places comes out on top. We have options for several of the ones you mentioned, but not all. So we'll see how that goes. And then we also have a survey. The Build O'Fallon survey asks about strengths and weaknesses from the community's perspective. And then we've asked them to share one big idea that they have. The survey and the big idea, people have to register on the site to see those. The quick poll, anybody can take. So the point of registering on the site is important because it helps us geographically trace where people live, so we can see if we're getting all parts of the community. During registration, we also ask a couple other questions, demographics on age and so on, to help us track how thorough our engagement is. But with this information that we're gathering, this should be good and set you up to have a little bit of public input for your next meeting in November to talk about vision and strengths. And you're doing a SWOT exercise, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats in that meeting. So this will give you some input from the public to work with as you come into that conversation. So definitely check that out. Your engagement homework is to go to that site, register on buildafallon.com, and you yourself complete those activities. We really want you to do that. For the public that we start sending to the site tomorrow, if they don't see anybody completing the activities, nobody likes the blank page, right? So if there's a little bit happening there, it's encouraging to others. So that's a piece of your homework. We would also like you to complete a Google Doc that we're going to send you tomorrow. It's going to have some questions for you. If there are publications that organizations you're a part of does, if Rotary sends a newsletter or an e-blast or something that you would like to have us send you content for. So the idea is that we'll do the work in writing the announcements and so on, but you just connect us to those publications and ways to get to your networks. And then next week, I would like you to recruit at least 5 people to participate in the Pulse. And I'll send you a separate email on that, Gabby or I will, next week with some information that you can forward to others to recruit them. So that's going to be your engagement homework coming into our next meeting. So we will move away from engagement if that's okay, and we will hear from Sheila. She's going to start, she's going to share with you the data snapshot and some of the critical questions we're thinking of in the planning process. And Sheila, do you want to run your own show? Should I stop my sharing on the screen? Yep.
If you don't mind, that'd be great.
Yep, okay, I did.
Okay. You need to enable me to participate.
Oh yeah, I could. Okay, hold on.
So much control, Beth. It's awesome.
It's really, it's dizzying apparently. I can't, let's see. Okay, there you go. Okay, try again now.
Okay. Great. All right, before we get into this, does anybody have any questions for Beth just before, as I get this up and we kind of get going? Does anyone have any questions?
I've learned you have to call on them, Sheila.
I know, everybody's so quiet today. Such a quiet group.
It's hard when there's such a big group and it's virtual to know when to speak up. So I hope
that's okay. I will go ahead and start. And what I plan to do tonight is to give you a preview of the questions that we're hoping these plans, the long-term and the short-term plan, both answer for your community. And I'm going to give you one more additional homework assignment. So as you play golf, you go to church, you go to the downtown or to the park and you run into others or at work or at home, think about one or two of these questions that you want to ask and get some feedback from people in the community about, and maybe share one of the facts that's on the snapshot with them to see if that sparks any conversation, if that makes sense. So the first one really is kind of that big picture question, what do you want our community to look like, to feel like? What will bring people here to live, to work, to enjoy the community? And so we'll be asking people those questions in a variety of different ways, and that really helps us establish the vision for the community. And so just a few things, of course, you're probably aware of a lot of awards your community has won over the past year or so. You mentioned the Parks and Recreation. You've mentioned just safe neighborhoods. a lot of people involved in your community. A little bit about your community from the data standpoint. You're about the same age as the majority of people who live, the median age in the state of Illinois. A little bit of a younger group than the St. Louis Metro as a whole. And just probably that rings true because you feel, you know, it's a lot of families, a lot of people love the schools, so you have a lot of younger families in your community. Currently, your population is about 30,000. You did a special census to kind of verify that, and we'll be getting new numbers out soon. I believe today was the last day to turn your census numbers in. So hopefully everybody did, because that information really helps us figure out what we want for ourselves as communities in the future. And then just some other little stats here, different information about the community. We'll be diving deeper into all of this and really figuring out, you know, what makes O'Fallon O'Fallon, and how can we make that a more attractive community. And then we'll ask people, you know, to reach that if they say that it's kind of that small town feel, which I've heard as we visited the community. Even though you're a growing community, you still have that kind of connectedness, that small town feel. How do we protect that? How do we bring that into the next 20 years? And then what draws people and makes us unique? You know, the last thing that we want to do really is to have a vision statement that you could insert any community's name in. We want to think about what's going to make O'Fallon unique, what's going to position it to be uniquely ready for the future. And just again, a few things that some of you mentioned, the pool, the splash pad, some of the downtown, things that draw you to your community, that attract you today. And we'll be discussing what will those things be in the future. I do want to point out that I have a fly on my screen. I know you guys can't see it, but I'm distracted by it right now. So if I feel like I'm in a presidential debate a little bit. I think we might be missing that tonight, but anyway. So how should we celebrate and learn from our history? You know, a lot of you have lived there 30 years plus, which is awesome. I think, you know, I've lived in my community over 20 years, and I know a lot about the history of our community, and it really brings a lot of pride and joy, but also helps shape the events of the future if you protect the cultural resources and historic resources of your community. So we'll have a section where we talk to the community about what do they think is important in terms of history. A little fun fact there, you know, historic preservation. Right now, the houses in the 60s and the 70s, that's kind of when I was born in 65. So those houses are now historic, which I think is amazing. So the Brady Bunch, they're going to be on the historic register, their house. And so you do have some local historic landmarks, 30 properties, and 1 property that is on the National Register. And as we go through this process, you'll learn more about the differences between those two, and how those different designations really relate to how the city and the property owner can work together to protect their property and the context of their neighborhood. So how will we feel in O'Fallon in 2040? So we're going to talk about health and safety. And, you know, that's been one of the things that's been in the news more and more since the pandemic. And so how can we continue to have safe and healthy community and safe and healthy people? So one way that we do that is we kind of look at some information about the community's members today, and then some of the resources that you have within your community. So we've talked about physical and mental health, as well as well-being when we have these discussions. And so here's a little bit of information about your community. We developed this from the countyhealthranking.org. This takes a little bit of information about your county, St. Clair County, and then it compares it to Illinois. So it's not specific as much to O'Fallon, but it gives you a sense of maybe what some of the issues are in the community. I've got a barking dog. And then mental health and preventable hospitalization. Those are some of the things we'll be looking at further as well. So access to appropriate health care, both physical and mental health care, as well as access and the ability to walk. A lot of you said outside, the exercise, the great recreational trails and so forth that you have continue to make your community healthy. So another topic we're going to talk about is how to improve that access, as I said, to that, and are there any gaps in that? And one of the things we'll do is we'll be bringing back a map to you that kind of shows you how walkable is your community. Are you within 15-minute walk of certain places in your community, so you can make walking more of an activity that you actually take on as a daily part of your life rather than exercising. And so that's where many groups around the country have started to really started to emphasize that more, as well as other countries that you visit from around the world. And many of you who are in the military have traveled a lot. Walking and biking is becoming more and more of a attractive feature in communities. So this talks a little bit about where you stand today. Healthcare coverage is listed over here in the right side. Access to exercise opportunities. About 82% of your community is about 3 miles from recreational activities, which is not a far walk. We talk about that 15-minute or 10-minute walk from a park. That's kind of a national standard with the Trust for Public Lands. And currently about 35% of your community is within a 10-minute walk of a park. And so as we plan for future parks and future open space and trails, we're going to think about how, if the community desires, how to bring that number up so that more people have that ability to walk and enjoy open space in the future. And then how safe people feel and how they actually will be. So we'll talk about public safety and the perception of public safety. Sometimes those two are not the same. The numbers and the perception don't really meet up. And we'll be talking about crime, your police department, how the violent crime and property crime relates to other places around the metro, national, and the state of Illinois. So currently, you know, your community is a very livable community, very safe community in comparison to those other communities. We can even look at some of the other cohorts or look at some different communities that maybe you compete with for housing and for economic development to see how you stand up in terms of fire rating and crime and public safety perception. I don't know if Beth brought this up earlier, but we are going to be getting the citizen survey back, which a lot of the information that's the standard citizen survey that you do every few years. We'll be bringing that information to you as well in a future meeting. And oftentimes the perception of safety and some of these other factors are included in that data, so you can see what people are thinking about that as well. And as you grow, do you have the appropriate number of fire stations? Do you have the right type of programs to ensure safety? Those are some of the things that we'll be talking about. So in 2040, we're going to be thinking about what will people do for recreation and leisure. Sounds like Charles is going to, and Justin are going to be playing SimCity. That's actually gaming is becoming a bigger thing for recreation, which I had no idea was a thing, but that just skipped over my generation altogether. But you know, the thing that does change a lot are really what people want in terms of parks and recreation. And I've seen this over the years. My background's in city management, and I used to run a parks system. And some years tennis was hot, and then it wasn't. Now it's pickleball. People love trails, and then, you know, do they want a skate park and all of those types of things. And so thinking about what the needs are of your community today, but having the space and the flexibility to be able to adjust to future recreation and leisure needs is something that we'll be talking about as a group, as well as getting feedback from the community. And then also just, you know, total parks. You have a lot of parkland, you've got a lot of miles of trail, and 20 acres of parkland per 1,000 residents. That's a pretty good number in terms of the national average is about 9.35 acres of parkland per 1,000 residents. And so again, we're going to be looking at how close are you to those parks so that you could walk to them. as well as the quantity of park land that you have available. So, important one, where will you live? What types of housing will be needed in the future? You know, if you watch HGTV, people talk about tiny homes and all of that, and just a lot of different housing trends are changing in terms of what people are desiring and what they need. And we're going to go pretty deep into housing. This is always a very popular topic in communities, and we'll talk further about that. So we provided you with quite a bit of data about your housing stock in terms of when it was constructed. Really, one of the great things here is that you don't have a large majority of your housing stock built in one particular decade. It's kind of spread out.
Is Sheila frozen for you all, or am I frozen? Sheila's a little bit frozen.
I think
She's
Sheila.
frozen.
Sheila froze.
Sheila's frozen. Sheila, I wonder if it would help if we'll just talk here for a minute, and then if you don't come back, we'll maybe have you disconnect and then join again, and that'll probably take care of it. But what you've seen so far, what are there things that surprise you? This is a lot of information, and this was in the snapshot we sent you. We'll also send you this PowerPoint so you can spend time with it. But from what you've seen so far, you know, does it agree with what you know about O'Fallon? Did you see something that surprised you? Debbie, what do you think? Might need to unmute you. Yeah.
What? You just asked her. Oh, no, it's very interesting going through all the level of detail that it gets into there and telling you, you know, some things you never knew or to look at it. And I think, you know, I think it's going to help us by knowing the demographics of, you know, the age groups of the town and just, you know, how we are towards the national average and, you know, what we need to work towards, you know, or what are the most important things, because some, you know, we all have opinions of what we think people want, but looking at the stats and getting a good idea, I think will help take us where we need to.
Yeah, it's some of that is good benchmark information. And then Sheila mentioned the citizen survey. I think those results are due at the end of October, beginning of November. So that will give you information on lots of quality of life measures, satisfaction with citizen or with city services. We put a couple comprehensive planning questions in, so thanks to the city for letting us do that. So we will have some statistically valid information on preferences. So that'll be really helpful to us, I think. And I think we should have it in time for your next meeting. So let me see. I think we admitted Sheila. Give me just a second here. I'm going to see if we can.
Yeah, we'll just need to make her a co-host again.
Make me a co-host. Sorry about that.
Oh, there you are. Okay, I get lost in all my pictures. There we go. Okay.
Now, who was the person that works for your internet service there?
Who, me?
No, Nathan. Nathan.
Nathan, we need you here, Nathan. I've got the worst internet. Oh,
Yeah.
It's terrible.
Yeah, we'll have to find out what we can do. We're building all over the Midwest.
Okay, we've got Spectrum and they're terrible. So
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's all right. That's all right. It happens. I think a lot of it is because I think everybody's streaming their TV now, and there's no, I don't know what I'm talking about, bandwidth or something like that. So that's probably what it is, right?
And on my end, it's where I live, it's all above ground power lines for the most part, and it's a windy day. So I keep seeing little messages about low signal. So hopefully y'all have been able to hear me okay. All right, housing.
Okay, so housing, one of the things that we'll talk a lot about is housing for future generations. And what I love about your group you've assembled here is you do have people from all different generations. And we're going to be doing some role playing later on where we take on the persona of different generations and think about what type of housing, what type of transportation, where would they want to shop, that sort of thing in the future. And, that's always a really fun and interesting thing that we've done over the past year or so. But since COVID, it's been really interesting because a lot of the things that we've talked about in terms of trends have really been sped up by the pandemic. My mom orders things online now and she's 80, and I think about our kids and, maybe how the economy is going to impact their ability to afford a home in the future. So we'll be talking about all of those different housing types and how they might fit in terms of what the needs are in the future. And so again, we're kind of talking here about the different types of housing that you have. One of the trends that I just read about in an article recently was that I believe it's about 20% of new households in the future will be people over the age of 65 or young people with no children. And so more and more people are going to be without children in their home that are under the age of 18. More and more people that have children that are over the age of 18, like myself, will likely have children come back and live with them, adult children. So that's an interesting trend. And then another trend will be that younger people, I know we had a millennial on here. You're going to get called on a lot to tell us what the millennials think. As if you were a uniform group with one thought process. But in general, I think you're seeing the millennials and the baby boomers, they're looking for a lot of the same types of things, many of them are. So about half of the millennials and half of the baby boomers are really looking for something that they can just lock up and leave and travel, and they don't want a lot of maintenance. And then others, the other half of both of those groups are looking to purchase homes. So we'll be talking about a lot of those global trends that really impact the housing market, but we will be doing a market analysis to really focus in on how the numbers and the needs and the trends are impacting you in your community. So what type of neighborhoods will those houses be located in, and how do we want to change the neighborhoods and that we build in the future, or the ones that we have now, or how do we want to preserve what we have now? So, those are going to be questions that can be somewhat controversial, and we really do want your opinion and thinking through all the pros and cons of those. As I said, demographics are going to shift and the demand is going to shift in terms of housing. But, a lot of folks will still be concerned about how will that fit into the context of the neighborhoods that exist today. And so we need to think, how can we do that in a way that benefits all parties? And so here's some of the information that we have about housing cost. So you can see that in the metro, your housing prices, your median list price is a little bit higher, your median value is higher. Same goes for your median list price of the state of Illinois in St. Clair County, so quite a bit. But overall, I think as the mayor just kind of pointed out earlier at the beginning of this, your average cost of living, if you can see, is kind of in the middle here. And so overall, you're at about 95, and if on a scale of 100 in terms of cost of living. And that's great because that really shows that you're developing your community in a very cost-effective and efficient way, and you want to kind of continue that in the future. Your healthcare costs are a little above the national in terms of what people spend on their healthcare. And then there's one other category. I've got to move you all over here. Oh, just miscellaneous, and that's going to be things that just don't fall into that. One of the other numbers we look a lot at is, in addition to median list price and median home value, we look at what the trend is in terms of how those are changing. And so you can see that you're starting to trend up quite a bit, and that's pretty consistent with what's going on nationally in terms of the housing market. A lot of that has been driven by low interest rates. If we go into an economic recession, some people are saying that it'll be 5 years, and other economists think it'll be about a 10-year cycle that will be in an economic downturn. But as long as interest rates stay low, people will still likely continue to purchase homes. And so you'll see that maybe that median value what we're thinking. Like crystal ball. That's why I have this great background here. This is my crystal ball background. And another thing we look at is your median monthly rent. And I think it's really important to look at that because, as I said, a lot of people in the future will not have the money or the down payment to buy a house, but they may continue to want to live in your community because of your quality of life and your schools. And so, you know, they may just rent their property.
Okay, we might have frozen Sheila. Yes, you can hear me.
And a lot of the,
okay, thanks.
I'll go to the next slide. Can you see that?
Yeah.
Can you see me?
Oh,
okay, great. All right, sorry.
Sheila, you're coming in and out.
So how do we get around this? Let me go to that. So can you hear me now?
Yes.
Beth, can you still hear me?
Mm-hmm. I can hear you. And as soon as I tell her that we can hear her, that I can't hear her anymore. Is that what you all are experiencing too? Yeah. Yes. Okay. I'm sorry.
Okay. Well, I'll talk about this one on. That's okay. I'm trying to get into the.
So if you Beth, if you have the ability to share your screen and have her not have to share the screen, that'll probably help her upload.
Okay. Let's do that. You want to do that, Sheila?
Advance.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. If you
and
stop
I'm going to shut off everybody's.
Yep. Thanks, Nathan. If you share, yeah, stop sharing and then I'll share and then we can. Hold on, folks. It might be hard to do if she's frozen. Okay, there we go. Okay. So let me get it. Oh, okay, one moment.
Probably go to my phone.
Okay, bear with us just a minute. We're almost there. Okay, we were here. Okay, so I think ready when you are, Sheila. We've got the how will you get around slide up. Okay.
I did say might help, right? I didn't say will help. I said might help.
Okay, hold on. Let's see.
The other thing, if she can call in, and then she'd be able to talk through that.
I think she's trying. I think those last things that she said.
Yeah.
Abby, you can keep an eye to see if she is in the waiting room. I haven't gotten a message about it.
Will do. I don't see her yet.
Okay.
She just said, keep going, so.
Okay. All right. Well, let's take a look at what we have. So we're going to talk about the future of transportation quite a bit. Transportation will change over the next 20 years. We'll be talking about things, interesting things like autonomous vehicles and parking and things that would affect your downtown, things that affect how people get around. We'll be thinking a lot about multimodal transportation, how that works in your community now. When we did strategic planning with the elected officials and the city staff, there was a lot of conversation about just connections throughout town, walking and biking connections throughout town, and how we might work on that over the next 20 years. So what type of infrastructure will you be needing is an area that we'll be covering extensively as well. Infrastructure are it's the, you don't think about it, right? It's the stuff that's under the ground, wastewater, water, stormwater. But these are heavy expenses for your community. So thinking about where they go, what your needs are is really important. And the way you develop will really have implications for how you have to make these investments. We know that as a growing community, that's just something that's going to be a consideration. So let's see. What types of public facilities are going to be needed? Likewise, we're going to be thinking about places like your library. You have a fantastic library. And we've had some conversation with city staff about how it really is these third places that we've really, aside from home and work, third places like libraries have really got to be very important with COVID. And I think your library director, I think the term he used was, it was like he didn't use it he didn't say it was a park, but it's a community amenity just like a park is, but indoors, but bringing families together and giving them lots to do for inexpensive, for not very much money. So libraries and other public facilities like your fire stations, like your city hall, those sorts of things, are they ready for the next 20 years? We'll think about air quality, water quality, and how your environment is going to be impacted by how you develop over the next 20 years. So we'll look at climate change and what the city wants to do, or how the city wants to think about that. We know that emissions are an issue that we want to consider. So we'll think more about that. The Midwest temperature change is pretty dramatic over the last several years. And by mid-century, we're going to have 20 plus more days over 95 degrees, which is just depressing. So we need to think about that and how that affects even different parts of the community, because where there's less green space, people are going to feel that more. So you have natural resources in O'Fallon, as you talked about in your introductions, and the parks that you enjoy going to, and people are really connected to that. So we want to think with you about what is threatened and endangered, how your development might impact that, and how we just want to think about the pollution and the impact of air quality that has on air quality for us. So waterways are always important for thinking about how people are interacting with nature. Where can you fish, swim, and play? And so we'll be thinking about that. You've got several water bodies that are impaired in your community. Ogles Creek, Richland Creek South. So we'll think about that with you and think about those areas that are important to protect. So what types of jobs will O'Fallon's residents have? We're going to think about where people work now. So looking at the employment sectors for O'Fallon residents now, and you can see it represented on this call, a lot of people in education services, healthcare, and social assistance, fair number in retail trade, and public administration. So those are some of your major employment sectors, but this is a pretty good distribution. And then we have a lot of armed forces employment in O'Fallon too. So this is where people are working now. We'll be thinking a lot about where people are going to be working in the future. So thinking about that, where are people going to work in the future? What type of jobs do we need to have in O'Fallon? These are the major employers today. St. Elizabeth's Hospital, O'Fallon School District. Also, you all are represented well on the call today. O'Fallon Township High School District, and then Walmart and so on. So this is where these are the biggest employers now. So what will they be in 20 years? What are the industries that are going to be on the rise, and where are people going to be working? Is it going to matter where the actual jobs are? So many of us are working virtually now. So what does that mean for O'Fallon? What types of businesses should be recruited to the region? So we want to think about strategically about how we might position O'Fallon's economy for the future. So you've got a big labor force, and you've got a lot of people participating in the local economy. So we want to think about what they'll be doing in the future. What ideas do you all have? I'm just going to stop for just a second, but what thoughts do you have about what jobs are going to be needed here in the future? Nathan, what would you say, our tech person?
Hopefully I'm going to need thousands of more workers. So we'll start there.
Yeah.
But I think, the virtual environment, people working from anywhere, I think once we can all go back to work, there's going to be a lot of people that are like, phew, can't wait to go back to the office. This is amazing.
Yeah.
But then companies that traditionally thought you couldn't have workers work virtual are going to realize that they can actually have people work virtual. And that's going to then open up people to move. My parents are sick and I need to move back to where I grew up because I got to take care of them or whatever. I can keep the same job I have. And it's going to make our society more fluid for a little while until people settle kind of where they want to be. And so any type of those jobs that can be done virtually, of course, you have to have good internet to be able to do that. But, I think that's what we're going to see. And it's going to be a smattering of all kinds of jobs.
Yeah. Yeah. Other thoughts on that, Joy? What do you think? Future of work. I know right now you're muted, Joy. Sorry.
So I drove down the freeway yesterday in St. Louis and drove by Express Scripts, and the building was completely empty during the middle of the day. And I thought about that in my own facility, place of work. And, are people really going to need this rental space and these big office spaces that we have? So I'm kind of curious to see how that's going to change the environment when people are, like you said, it's like, we don't have to be at work to work. And now we're trusting our employees to do the right thing and to be productive, whether they're at home or in an office. So that it doesn't talk about skills, but it does talk about, what's that workplace going to look like in the future?
Right. And what does your community have to look like to really support that and make it a people, it means that you're competing on, place as much as having employers near your community. So changes a little bit about what people expect from where they live. So just a quick check. Sheila, are you there? Do you want to resume or are you there?
Beth, I think keep going.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So O'Fallon has a really unique position. You're near universities, you have a lot of military. So I think we want to look at, be aware of those strengths certainly, and think about how you can leverage those. And so we'll be having some intentional conversations with military and with others in the community who might think about how we can leverage that, the skills that are in that environment and the expertise to train others on that work, particularly on logistics. So how will people shop and how does that impact O'Fallon's downtown? So we all know we've all been doing a lot more shopping on Amazon through the pandemic. So that accelerated the trend toward online shopping, at home delivery. So what does that mean for retail? So you've got a thriving downtown that's really been growing over the last few years, and with a good mix of business types. You've got dining, you've got services, you've got shopping. So what is it that's going to keep people coming to downtown O'Fallon? And in a break in a couple slides, I'd love to hear from a couple business owners on what they think about the future of shopping. So let's get through a couple more. How do you attract new businesses to O'Fallon? Just the same question of just like, what are you doing to attract people? What are you doing to attract businesses? What the infographics on this slide are telling us is that there are, it tells you about who's working in O'Fallon and where they're from, and where the people in O'Fallon are working. So we can see that 41% are employed in O'Fallon but live outside of O'Fallon. And 51% live in O'Fallon, but they're employed outside the city. So you have 8% of your people who are employed and live in O'Fallon. So how do we want to think about that? How do we want to think about that as O'Fallon as an employment center? And maybe think about how many people are going outside of O'Fallon to work. So changes in technology impacting the job base. So we've talked a little bit about internet connectivity, automation, robotics. How are those things going to impact jobs, and how can we get people ready for those jobs? So we'll think about the number of people who are currently below the poverty line. These are, and I think that gives us an indication of who might need additional training to get some of these jobs in the future. So O'Fallon compares very favorably to St. Clair County and to Illinois in terms of the number of people here below the poverty line. Also compares favorably when it comes to the unemployment rate. St. Clair County is higher than the St. Louis Metro, lower than the state of Illinois. Per capita income in O'Fallon is relatively high, as is the median household income. So, so there's a lot of potential here in O'Fallon for getting jobs of the future, and a lot of disposable income for your shopping and your retail businesses. So what type of educational opportunities are going to be available? Jobs are going to change. So how are the local educational institutions, the schools, your fabulous schools, how are they thinking about training workers of the future? So right now your graduation grade is fantastic. And so think about how we can retain that for the future and really position students for success and aligning what they're learning in school with what employers are telling us they think they're going to need. So childcare, just as a note, is related to all of these things as we think about the workers of the future and what they're going to be doing, how we'll all be working. You know, underlying a lot of that is how our families function and the support that they have. And so what are the childcare facilities in O'Fallon and what services are needed? Are those needs being met now? You have a lot of kids. So is there adequate programming for kids and programming, meaning for older kids? And I know your rec department does a great job with even after school and during school camps during COVID. But those wraparound services that the city can help support to support working families. And this is just reiterating that we have a lot of younger people in the community, so thinking about that's important. But I did want to stop and see, you know, we've talked a lot about, you know, the future of shopping, the future of education. So I'd love to hear a couple comments from you all. So from our business owners, what do you think about the future of retail? Julie, are you around? What do you think?
I think it's going to be different than before, but I know we've noticed an increase in business. Surprisingly, I think people are geared towards supporting local businesses now, or small businesses, versus shopping online. In some aspects, I should say. I think a lot of that's going to depend on how financially sound the businesses are, though. Like if they can be competitive. I think that's really the biggest barrier for most small businesses, is being able to compete with larger retailers and or carry products that aren't allowed online, which is kind of nice for some of us. But I see like downtown becoming more consumer friendly in that way. Maybe less services to some degree, maybe a few less offices, or I shouldn't say less offices, but more retail and restaurant areas maybe being redeveloped in the area would be really awesome. I could see that happening in a few years. So I'm hoping for that. I think that that kind of, if one of us is doing well, we kind of all are doing well if we have a lot more foot traffic and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and there, where you are, it's great. I was there the other day, and I bought cat and dog treats, and then I went across the street and got some house stuff, and I got some baked good. You know, it's like you can do a lot right there. So
yeah, well, and I think that's why a lot of us love the market too, not just for being able to do something different on Saturdays, but it helps a lot with the foot traffic from a business standpoint. And then also, I think from a visibility point too, and the city's done a lot to help with this. I will say that as far as the signage and working really closely with the downtown district to make all of that a lot more visible, that's helped a ton for bringing new people into the area. And I hear every weekend, like, oh, I didn't know this was here. This is so cute. Like, what else is here? So that's been really, that hasn't slowed down really at all.
Yeah.
So
that's great. That's great.
Yeah.
Other thoughts on future shopping based on what you see around O'Fallon, maybe what you've seen during COVID?
We do home deliveries now too. So there probably is going to have to be some flexibility there. We also have a website now. That was kind of like I have to do this overnight because we don't have one. And, you know, when everything kind of happened in March, but I see there being flexibility, but nothing beats being able to go and see things and touch them and look at everything. And I feel like a lot of people really like that experience of being in stores.
Yeah.
So as easy as it would be to think like, you know, 20 years from now, everything's going to be delivered to your house. I think there's something very charismatic about shopping in person. And I think it's, you know, I don't think we can afford to get rid of that just from I don't think that's going to go away. You know, I think we're going to expand on what we already have as retailers, but I don't foresee that disappearing. Especially now, actually with COVID, I think a lot more people are like just dying to get outside and go somewhere different. So if anything, it's kind of, I think people will not take it for granted like they have been for the past couple of years, you know? So
yeah, no, I think I could see that being true. And I think we see a trend toward more, toward experiences, you know, not people don't want to just go to the place and, you know, maybe you're okay to shop for your Target stuff online because that's not all that fun. Although
yeah, and I can't be trusted in there by myself anyway, so I have a little bit of control for
but it's a different thing to go to a smaller store. It's more of an experience that you enjoy just for the sake of it. You're not out there getting your stuff and going home. So yeah, I think that's a trend in retail, and I would expect that to continue to.
It's automatically service-based, whether or not it seems like that. But I think being a small retailer, it's expected, and it's a fundamental part of your business is that you are going to be a service-based business for your customers. So I have people contacting me around the clock at night. Hey, my dog did this. Is this weird? Is this normal? Like, what do I do for this? And you can't text somebody at Petco or PetSmart. You know, you can't do that. So you can't text Chewy. You can't like send them a picture of your dog's foot and be like, do I need to go to the vet for this? So those are things I think too, from personal experience. I mean, as far as it being a service-based, I mean, if anything, it's even more, I think it's more valuable at this point that I don't think people would let that go away, you know?
Yeah. So how about on this issue of education and preparing our students for the jobs of the future, which we know things like that kids are going to have to, or when they become adults, are going to have to change jobs several times. And so it's more about giving them the skills they need to go from place to place. What do some of our educators think about that? What we need to be doing to prepare for some of the changes in our economy that students will need to be ready for.
I think one thing that, you know, COVID has definitely taught us, we jumped full into, as educators, we're pretty traditional usually, you know, as far as how we, you know, things that work, we kind of hold on to them. And this has, you know, obviously changed everyone across the nation and how we teach and how we educate. But I think we've talked a lot about, you know, the importance of digital citizenship, but also, you know, shifting our focus to digital leadership and knowing what, what those jobs of the future, they're not yet designed. Those software programs and the way that data is used by consumers, it's all changing so rapidly that our students just need to be prepared to enter that work field, and that everything would look very different. So that's something that we really have to wrap our minds around. And I think COVID has at least, really opened our eyes to that, and how important that is to embrace in the field of education.
Something that I think as well, I know that education has really evolved over the last, 10, 15 years. If you go back 15 years ago, you never saw a cell phone in a high school on a student. And now technology is just being carried around with the student every day in what they do. 10, 15 years ago, we were educating students really for job tracks and job paths. And as you said, we know that data shows us that people are changing jobs, time and time again. I think the average person has 20 jobs before they retire at sometimes. We have to be able to teach students adaptability and how to use the technology personally to get to their next goal or their next level, instead of developing them on a specific track. It's almost going back in one sense to this basic foundational education and skill set that people are going to have, because who knows what they're going to be doing 5 years from now. Those jobs haven't even been created yet. So we've got to go back to that foundational on one hand, but on the other hand, we've got to push so much harder and faster forward with technology, because any job anymore really has a plumber has a technology component in many instances. There's, a contractor. My husband's in the contracting business, and so much of what he does anymore is technology based. So we've got to go ahead on one end with technology, but we have to make sure those foundational skill sets that can traverse through whatever career path a student wants to go.
Yeah, right. Thanks, Dorothy. So Beth, can I put you on the spot for a second to ask you a question? Because we went through the housing questions or the housing slides, just about what kind of housing we think people are going to need, maybe based on demographics and changes there. But what are you seeing from your work, and what's changing about the type of housing, the function of housing that people want?
Well, our biggest problem here is we do not have housing for our elderly here. We don't have a place for them to downsize to. So I would say half of my business this year has been the elderly leaving our area because I don't have anywhere to put them. We were just discussing in my staff meeting today I have 8 buyers agents, and we are backlogged with 87 buyers right now that don't have houses to buy. And that's insane. We've never had that situation. And most of them are new, young people moving to the area. So we have a huge amount here of $250,000 to $400,000 homes. We don't have starter homes, and we don't have places to downsize to. So that's our biggest hurdle here in O'Fallon, is we see those people going somewhere else.
Yeah, that's a big deal. So we heard a little bit about that from city staff and elected officials when we were doing strategic planning with them. But we'll definitely be bringing some questions to the community and having more conversation about affordable housing, starter housing, housing for elderly. I think that's, really important.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, we have one more, sorry, I'm accidentally flipping slides. We have just a couple more slides I'll share with you. And these are really thinking about land use in your community and where development happens, what existing development needs to be strengthened. So we're going to talk to people about the places that they, about how they feel about their different places they feel like they need to stay the same and protect, places that should be enhanced, and maybe places that they would like to see totally transformed. So we'll bring questions to the community that try to help us get at that. So taking a look at this, and you know, Justin, I'm going to call on you for just a little bit of help here, if you don't mind, and I'll talk for a minute to prepare you for that. But I think there's some good information here, and you would have some insight on it. I know development issues that we've talked to the city about are, you know, there's an increasingly limited amount of developable land in O'Fallon because it's increasingly developed. So as you move into your next 20 years, that's really going to be a changing aspect of how you're thinking about development. But Justin, can I ask you for a little insight on just what you see and the next 20 years of development in O'Fallon?
Sure. And, you know, over the next 20 years, you start to begin to look at the city's, you know, interstate frontage, which has led to a lot of the development within the city. You know, it's beginning to get developed out. And so then what does that mean for the city? Do you not continue to grow because you're out of land? That's probably not the right stance to take, but it then shifts to how do we build with a little more density? And you know, that's a tough discussion to have, but it certainly speaks to affordability for homes. It certainly speaks to growing our population, which adds to the potential for recruiting businesses and jobs to the community, as well as retail opportunities. So I think when we are talking about the future of development in O'Fallon, while there is space to continue to grow, I think we've got to, as a community, talk about what density looks like. Not just multifamily, but you know, maybe you go with smaller yards. We've talked about, you know, aging in place. We've got a couple communities that are neighborhoods that are getting built where it's still a single family residential house, but everything outside is taken care of. So you just kind of live in your house. You don't worry about mowing. You don't worry about landscaping. You don't worry about cleaning the outside of your house. It's all taken care of for you. So, you know, we've also got a couple other senior living projects that are in the works that should be coming online in the next couple of years to help with some of that aging in place. But all of those developments include density, which has not normally been talked about in the community.
Yeah, that's always a challenge to introduce density, but it's going to increasingly be a factor for a lot of communities. And so I think the communities that are most successful moving forward are going to be the ones that figure out, including suburban communities, that figure out how to integrate some density so that you're generating the number of people for retail, so that you're giving options to younger people and older people. It's really important to keep thinking about that, I think. But we want to listen to what the community thinks. It doesn't matter what I personally think or the trends tell us. We need to see what the community wants to do, but that's certainly a conversation we want to have. So we'll look at this issue of what existing development needs to be enhanced. So this is just about where do we need to see reinvestment and so on. We have there's as Justin has told me, there's been a lot of development activity even during the last several months. So I think the low cost of borrowing right now is really fueling quite a bit of construction activity. So we'll look at how that might play out moving forward, and what existing development needs to be transformed. So we'll ask the community about parts that maybe just aren't working or that could be used for some other purpose. And you've got some areas surrounding the city to think about and how that is not developed. So we'll explore options for that and what people might like to see of that land that's currently undeveloped. So I think that wraps it up. This is for our data snapshot. lot of information to share at once. So I will send you the presentation that you saw tonight. A lot of the same snapshot data within the packet that you received last week, but we'll send you the presentation too, so you have it in the context of those critical questions, because that's how we'll be presenting them to the community. So as a reminder for you, your homework is to register on the buildofallen.com website. We will send you the Google Doc that's going to have you share with us ideas for places we might want to put announcements about our engagement opportunities, so church bulletins, newsletters, e-blasts for your organizations. Everything will be on the table there, and we'll give you some guidance on what we need from you. And then next week, you'll be getting an email from us with probably an email for you to forward to at least 5 people, see if we can recruit them for the Pulse panel, which is that representative group of people that we're going to try to get a little bit more feedback from on a weekly basis during our planning process, that about 8 weeks that we'll be starting now. So next steps for you, your homework, and then watch for meeting invitations. We're going to go ahead and send you meeting invitations for the rest of our process, so that you just have them on your calendar. So watch for those to come from us. And then your next meeting is going to be on the working on vision trends, and doing that SWOT analysis. And that will be in 2 weeks. 2 weeks is already Thursday, November 5th, so it'll be past the election, if you can believe it. In terms of engagement, we're going to be launching engagement, starting to promote the website and the opportunities to engage there. So we'll be sending out e-blasts and trying to get some press in your local papers, and doing social media, other things to get people's attention. So that's going to start to happen. We're going to work on a couple of our engagement tools that we're finishing up, and then we're really big on recruiting for the Pulse and just for our general overall engagement and getting people to our website. That is the name of the game. In terms of our planning, we're finalizing a mapping protocol that's going to tell us how we're going to present maps and what maps are going to go into our final plan document. And then our project team is starting to meet with the city in a pretty methodical way to go through each chapter of the master plan. It's not, the chapters aren't written yet, that's our holiday homework, but the framework for those chapters and outline questions on our research. So those conversations will be happening in the next couple weeks. So that's everything that's going on in our planning process. Does anybody have any questions about what we're doing or what we've shared with you tonight? I'm sorry for our technical issues. We'll kind of troubleshoot that. Nathan, you might get a call, I don't know, to try to figure out how we can be better with that next time. But any questions or words
A
from
quick
anyone?
question, not to hold everybody up, but
yeah,
in the beginning you talked about videos that were going to be on cable and social media. Have they already been developed?
No, we are. We're going to be doing that over the next 2 weeks, and then plan to start running them in early November. But we'd be happy to share those if you have other ways that they could be used.
So I have a question, or maybe a 2-part question.
Yeah.
One, how many municipalities are you currently working with? And 2, do you feel that COVID is going to stilt our responses as to what we think, the community thinks we need in our community, for better or for worse? Have you seen any trends that, COVID makes people think about things differently, but that may not necessarily be the way we're thinking in a couple years, or it may be great?
So the first part of your question, Tyler, I'm going to ask you to do a tally while I'm talking. And in terms of what we're getting from people during COVID, I mean, I think it's certainly on people's minds, and we have to filter a little bit about what we're hearing based on that. I think really, so I don't have like a hard analysis to share with you to tell you here's how COVID is changing it. My sense is, and what I'm excited about is I think it's making us think about things differently. So it's actually a really interesting time to talk to people, because they're not working like they used to. They're not going to school like they used to. So much has changed that we can imagine we can imagine something different. And so it's an interesting time to just be asking people about what's going on in their community and what they want for the future. It's just kind of shaking up what's expected. So I think it's an interesting time to be talking to people in that way. I think this is a 20-year plan. So I see the shorter term, the strategic plan that we're working on as part of this, which is more of a 3 to 5 year plan. We will be thinking more about how do you respond to COVID, you know, and that document is going to be a shorter term. Longer term, I think we're trying to think about things like how can we be resilient when the next pandemic happens, you know, so we have that opportunity to do that longer term thinking. But like Tyler, what would you add to that? And, you know, what did you get from your tally of our communities that we're working on?
No, I think you hit it on the head when you kind of brought up the idea of the strategic planning and the fact that, you know, that's really kind of helping us frame how we move forward from where we are currently in the pandemic, and kind of, you know, evaluating if we need to adjust. And so I think certainly the 20-year plan and making sure that we're resilient. And as Beth was saying, keeping where we're at in mind to make sure that in 20 years and as we get there, we're able to adapt to whatever changes come, you know, our way, basically. So
yeah. And how many
so we are currently at different stages with about 5 communities on their comprehensive plan. So that's kind of, and that's in Kansas, Missouri, and Illinois at the moment.
So we can keep you posted on that, Nathan, because most of those projects that are at a similar point where we're just starting to talk to communities. And since COVID started, their engagement kind of got a little quiet for a while. Well, I think everybody regrouped and decided, okay, yeah, we can do this. We're just going to do it virtually. So I think we'll be learning a lot in the next couple months that we can probably answer that question a little better. So yeah, it's a good question. And Walter in the text, and if you haven't seen the chat, said, let's not think about what's normal, let's do something better. So, and Al says you're 100% correct. Let's build an infrastructure and mindset that makes us even more resilient. Ken agreed with Walter too. So thanks for that, folks. So Walter, what are your thoughts as we get ready to close tonight?
Well, I'm just excited about the participation and the good comments we've had so far. You know, this was a lot of background work on our behalf, but in the end, the master plan isn't any good if it doesn't reflect what the community wants. And so we can come up with the best process that we can, but what we really depend on is you and all of your friends and coworkers and neighbors to help us out. And they've developed a great plan process and a nice website and all of these structures and tools, but it's only as good as the input we get from the community. So I really appreciate you taking the time and your Thursday night and your next nights coming up and helping us out. And I really hope that we are able to engage the public and our neighbors so that we can really get something that reflects the dreams and visions of the community, and so that we can move forward.
Yeah, thanks, Walter. All right, well, I think with that, we're a couple minutes past time, so we're gonna let you go. But you'll be hearing more from us over email. You've got your homework. We're very excited to get started. Thank you so much for your time tonight, and we'll see you in a couple weeks. Night, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thank you.